Everybody, good morning, everybody. Good morning on the West Coast and on the East Coast. Good afternoon, and welcome to all those in all parts of the 147 cities we are broadcasting live today to. We are extremely pleased today to have Naji Saloom back on our webinar series dealing with mobile growth. It has definitely been a subject that many have sent us messages about. You know, how do we build our mobile apps once we've got them? How do we get the audience? How do we retain them? How do we engage them? And I'm so pleased to have Naji back with us. This is a repeat performance with new content, and really pleased to have him back. He's the founder of the Mobile Growth Academy, and he is definitely the go-to guy in Silicon Valley for mobile growth. So without further ado, I'm going to pass you on to Naji, who's going to start the webinar today. Remember that at the end, we're going to have a Q&A, and also at the end, Naji's going to have, you know, some really cool things to share with you. So be sure to stick around for the entire webinar. It will last about 50 minutes today, 45 minutes or so. So be sure to stick around. We have some incredible information that's truly going to help you build an incredible mobile app and get your users engaged. Without further ado, Naji, over to you. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining today. I'm very excited about this webinar. We have a huge number of people today. We have around more than 1,100 people signed up to this webinar. Sorry about that. We have more than 1,100 people signed up to this webinar, and I'm very excited about this number because I'll be able to share the best practices of what it takes to really grow an app with thousands of startups. And I've been doing this webinar and this content around the world, in Silicon Valley, in different places in the world. And at the end of the webinar, there are always these questions. I highly encourage you to ask as many questions as possible to benefit from this webinar and benefit from us being live. And to ask these questions, at the bottom in the chat box, there's a small drop down that says comment, or a small comment icon. When you click on it, there's a question icon. This helps us identify the questions from the many comments we're gonna get. So I highly encourage you to ask questions and stick around till the end, because we have tons of amazing content, and at the end we're gonna have a special offer for all those who stick till the end. I get also asked if there are any replays. I'm not sure we're gonna have a replay. At the end of the webinar, I'm gonna see if we're gonna have a replay. If we're gonna have a replay, it's gonna be only for 24 hours. But at the end of the webinar, I'm gonna be able to decide whether we're gonna have a replay or not. So stick around till the end, and then let's get on to it. So let me start the presentation. All right, I just want to do an audio check now. Can you see the presentation now? Just type in yes, and if you can see it, say yes, and then type the city and what time is it locally in your city right now. All right, excellent. Let's get started then. So I want to talk to you about the 4 critical steps to explode your mobile growth. And then to start, if you don't know who I am, I've been in marketing for the past 12, 13 years. And I started in marketing after a education in robotics engineering. I'm an engineer by education, but I happened to learn marketing on the job. And I was lucky enough and fortunate enough to work at some of the biggest companies like Procter & Gamble and Google. I was heading global marketing at Tango here in Silicon Valley, and I had my own fair amount of startups I started and I launched. Some of them are successful, some of them are not successful, but I've been in your shoes, and the lessons I've learned are all practical lessons of what it takes to really market any product. But in today's talk, I'm going to be focusing it on marketing for mobile apps, but 80% of it is relevant for any company. So as part of my marketing roles, I've been advising companies and advising startups around the world. And I've noticed that a lot of them are struggling when it comes to marketing. They're experts in building a product, in developing a product, but a lot of them are struggling when it comes to market a product. And that's why I started the Mobile Growth Academy, to help companies in the mobile space learn exactly what it takes to market a product and launch it in the mobile space. Because a lot of them are coming from either a web background, they think it's the same principles of marketing an app, or they're coming from a product background, or some of them, they're not even in marketing background. So I started the Mobile Growth Academy to teach startups around the world of what it takes to really market and grow an app successfully. How do the biggest apps in Silicon Valley do it? And documented everything in practical steps. Today, I'll be sharing with you the 4 main stages that you need to master in order to succeed, to successfully market and grow your app like the biggest apps here in Silicon Valley. Principles I've applied in my marketing, colleagues at Uber and different big companies here applied, and I'll be sharing with you the different practices on how to do it. So it's very important for you to start with the idea that time is never on your side. Time is always against you as a startup. So for that, you have to be focusing on 3 main things to maximize your chances of success. You have to focus on getting access to money. You have to focus on attracting smart people around you. And you have to focus on using best practices, whether it's in product or design or marketing. And I'll be focusing on best practices of marketing. And to start with, you have to understand the 6 main reasons people don't use your app. And you have to design your marketing system to address these 6 main reasons. The first one is people don't know your app exists. That's the main problem for many, many apps. The discovery problem is the first challenge, the first reason why people don't use your app. They simply don't know it exists. The second big reasons why people are not using your app is they don't understand it. So now that they see that your app exists, they still don't understand it. So clarity becomes extremely important for you. You have to clearly explain what your app does and what it is about. Now, the third thing is that they don't care about your app. They know it exists, they understand it, but they don't care about it. So chances are you're attracting the wrong people. And here, positioning becomes absolutely critical for the success of your app. Many, many companies are missing on the importance of positioning. I'll be talking about positioning in a moment, but it's absolutely important to start with the right positioning. The fourth mistake is the fourth reason why people don't use your app initially is that because they don't trust it. Trust and credibility is a major, major challenge initially why people don't use an app when it's still very new. And look at this example, for example. Look at this app, for example. It's an app that I found in the App Store. Now, this is a personal finance app. The app doesn't do any effort to make me trust it. Now, they spent all this effort, all this time and energy and money building this app to the point where it's in the App Store, but I still don't trust it. So one way to address trust and credibility when you're just starting off is using social proof, for example. Look at this app that's around fitness. It's called Fitness Point. Look at how they mention in the first line in their description over 5 million downloads. So they're using social proof to create credibility that others use our app. 5 million actually use our apps. You might be interested in using it as well. So they're addressing this credibility and trust issue with social proof. The fifth reason is that they find it complicated. The main issue among many companies is they focus on loading their app and the product with so many features, and they start focusing on adding all these watermarks and complicated onboarding. So it becomes very complicated to use. So you have to understand that when you're starting up, simplicity, focus, especially in the first time user experience, is absolutely critical for you to succeed and grow in your app. We're going to see that in a moment as well. So they find it complicated. That's the fifth reason. The sixth reason is one of the most important ones. Even if they love your app, even if they use it the first time and they love it, chances are they're going to forget about it. So retention becomes absolutely critical for people to keep using your app. So these are the 6 main reasons why people are not using your app, and your marketing system needs to be designed to address each one of them. Now, here's why 90% of companies fail. So we have a lot of people today on the call. Here's why 90% of the company of you guys might eventually fail. Here's how it works. The founder come up with an idea, they figure out a way to build a prototype out of it, and after a few series of iterations, they're ready to launch. And that's when their marketing starts. So they spend 2 to 6 months building the product, trying to focus on the development before they do any kind of marketing. And the way they do marketing is what I call the typical marketing model. And it goes something like this. They come up with some messages at the launch time when they're ready to launch. After a few months of building the product, they come up with messages. They use Facebook advertising, or they contact friends and family. They use some social media on their social properties on Facebook, where they have very limited fans, for example, and followers. And they push these messages onto people and sending them straight to the app stores to get them to download the app. And then from there, very few people convert, around 1%, and most actually convert. And then they have no retention plan in place. So they rush back to the beginning to get more people. So there's no system in place for them to keep acquiring users. So they have very poor positioning because they haven't spent time really focusing on the positioning. They focus all their time on the product. They use paid marketing, which is not sustainable, and they don't have a sustainable stream of continuous users. They don't have a plan for delighting new users. They don't have a plan to keep users in the business, and almost all of it is manual work. That's the recipe for failure. That's why so many companies are failing. So just type in the box if you're doing this now. Tell me if you are doing actually this now, because this is what most companies are doing, whether they want to admit it or not. But this is what most startups are doing, whether here in Silicon Valley or anywhere else, actually. So the growth rate you need to aim for in a business, especially in the early stages, is 5% to 7% week over week growth. Now, if you're getting this growth rate, 5% to 7% week over week, excellent. Keep doing that. But if you're not getting the growth rate, 5% to 7%, you should go back to your blueprint and figure out where do you have leakages, why you're not getting it. Go back to your funnel and then fix that, because there's no way you're going to be able to succeed and then grow and attract the investors if you don't have this growth rate. And to achieve this growth rate, you need to have a system that runs 24/7 to continuously convert users, but also to keep them in your app. And this system needs to fix leakages at every stage of the funnel. Here's what I mean by leakages. You have to map out the user lifecycle. From those who are discovering your app, let's say it's 10,000, all the way to those using you on day 30 after they register in your app. So imagine you have 10,000 people discovering your app. Out of those, you have 2,000 people interested, so they go on the App Store. But out of those, not everybody installs the app. Actually, 500, let's say, installs the app. Again, not everybody registers. So let's assume out of the 500, 300 people registers. From those, only 100 people keep using it on day 2. So they register, they use it day 1, and only 100 people use it on day 2. And that's very optimistic. And from those, you have 20 people using it on day 30. So effectively, what you can see is that you're losing people at every stage of the funnel. And your job is to focus on increasing the conversion rates at every step of the funnel. And to do this, you have to focus on 4 main stages of growth. The first one is absolutely critical. Very few people talk about this, but it's absolutely critical. It's positioning. The second step is acquisition. So after you have positioning in place, you move on to acquisition. And then the third step is activation. And then the fourth step is the retention. If there's one slide I want you guys to take out of this whole presentation, out of this whole webinar, it's this one. Your marketing system needs to be designed to address each of these stages. So let's go deeper in them. Positioning. That's where everything starts. It's what do you stand for? What is your app about? And you have to understand it's never, ever about you. Don't talk about your features. Don't talk about how great your product is. And definitely do not talk about your mission and vision statement. Nobody gives a shit about that. People do not care about you. They care about themselves, they care about their benefits, they care about their unmet desires and how you can help them. So what is the one thing you want people to remember about your app? Given that you have very short attention span, people are constantly busy, there are millions of apps out there trying to capture their attention, and you have very limited time to get them to remember one thing about your app. What is this one thing about your app? And to do this, you have to understand that you have to start with one simple niche, one very focused audience. Even if your app addresses many audiences, select one audience. You cannot afford to go after everybody. You can't afford to go after every different audiences. Select one very specific niche, profile them, understand exactly what are their unmet needs, what are the pain points, identify the benefits that addresses these pain points that your product delivers on, and start drafting headlines. Start drafting your marketing messages. This is absolutely critical. And here it's very important to talk about the power of words. In marketing, words are the currency for everything you do. And words decide whether your marketing is going to work or it's going to die. And most marketing dies because a lot of founders don't emphasize enough on the words they use in their marketing. Let me show you why words are so important in your marketing. Let's assume you have two headlines, both attracting the same amount of visitors. Let's say both attract 10,000 visitors. A bad headline converts 0.05% of people. So you end up with ultimately 5 users. A good headline, on the other hand, converts up to 2% of people. So you can get 200 people if you write a good headline. That's 40 times more users simply by you focusing on writing better headlines, by writing better communication, by focusing on writing the right words that communicate your benefits. And for that, I never ever start from scratch. I actually documented what I call the power words, whether it's headlines or adjectives or verbs or examples, and I always go back to it and actually have it in the academy for those who are interested. But words are very important for you, and this is where everything starts. So once you define your niche, you articulate your benefits, and you write up your marketing headlines, and you put them in the library, that's when you start using them in marketing communication. That takes some time to prepare. And that's when you start using them in the ads, in email, in content marketing, in social media, on the website, in the app store. You have to start with this exercise before you think about acquisition. Now, I'll be very interested to understand what is your position statement about your business. If you can write it up in the chat box, but please keep it very short. And actually, you have to keep it very short because people don't have enough attention span to read a long statement. So give it a try. Write your positioning statement in the chat box, and I'll look at it as well. And others actually could look at it. That's the first step. The second step is acquisition. And in the acquisition module, it's important to focus on this question. How can you convert users for free in a consistent and repeatable way? That's very important. You need a constant stream of new users. So you want a constant flow of new users in your app. You cannot really rely on advertising when you're just starting up. Most startups focus on Facebook advertising or Google advertising to acquire users. So today, the CPI, the average CPI or cost per install is anywhere between $3 to $6. It's very expensive to acquire a single user. So if you don't have a big budget, if you don't have a big investment, it's going to be very, very hard for you to keep acquiring users. That's why you have to rely on sustainable distribution channels. I'm going to talk about 16 free different distribution channels. But before that, there are 2 main concepts that you have to absolutely understand. The prerequisites to any acquisition effort. The first one is attribution. Attribution is a way to understand where are users coming from, which channel are they coming from. So you attribute one single user to one download, and that download to one specific source, whether it's a campaign or a certain channel. Without that, there's no way you can know which channel is working, which campaign is working, and which is not working. So attribution, and there are a lot of attribution tools. Attribution is very important for you. The second step is deep links. That's also critical for the success of your marketing. Without these two, there's no way you're going to be able to succeed. Now, deep links are simply links that takes you to a specific content in your app. You're all familiar with web links or web deep links. When you click on this link, it takes you to a specific web page in a website. In the mobile space, you also have links. They're called deep links. However, you do not see them. So when you click on this link, for example, it takes you to a specific page inside the Call Hand app. Most deep links are not visible. Now, the way it works, you get a message with a deep link. You've got to try this recipe from Yumly. You tap on it. It takes you to the App Store to download the app. And then it takes you straight to that content that you're expected to see. That delivers a great user experience. However, most deep links are broken because most companies try to build deep links themselves. And when people tap on the link to install the app, most apps take them through the generic onboarding experience and then do not take them to the link they were expected to land on, the page they're expected to land on. The reason is deep links are very complicated to use. They're very complicated to set up. The good thing is that there's a company called Branch. There are actually several companies, but one of the leading companies out there called Branch. They offer deep linking technology for free, plus many other marketing features around deep links. I highly encourage you to use Branch in your deep linking and not do it yourself. Now, when you understand that when you have attribution and you have deep links set up, that's when you start thinking about the distribution. That's when you start thinking about acquiring users. And there are many ways to acquire users for free. There's growth hacks, there's content marketing, there's SEO, there's app store optimization. You can do some creative PR. You can use social media, cross-marketing, referral. You can go into partnerships, customer service, competitions, and then you can go into events, specific events around your niche. Now, I don't have time to go through all of these things. I want to go through the items in green. Let's start with growth hacks. Here's an idea that allows you to hack WhatsApp. And that's exactly what I did in one of the companies I worked at. So WhatsApp has around 1 billion active users now. I highly encourage you to figure out a way to use the network already on WhatsApp. And the way you can do this, the way we did it, we had a house ad, an ad inside Tango. And when people tapped on it, it linked to a deep link of WhatsApp. It opened WhatsApp. People would select the people they want to send to the message, and then it would come pre-filled with a message that we create to get people to install Tango. So we actually hacked WhatsApp network and encourage people on WhatsApp to install Tango. That's a free way to start benefiting from WhatsApp. And there's actually a deep link for WhatsApp that allows you to do this without any coding. It worked tremendously. And actually, many apps are doing it right now because they're benefiting from the network that already exists on WhatsApp. The other way you can start getting users for free is through content marketing. Now, there are two types of content marketing. There's the lead generation type of marketing, and there's a social sharing types of marketing. I'm going to focus a bit on the lead generation type of marketing for the sake of time here. And the idea of content marketing is to offer tips about anything that relates to your business that can be helpful to a user. Any advice, any tips, anything that can help them solve their problem. You can do it in forms of blog articles, ebooks, photos, infographics, newsletters. You can answer Q&A websites. You can create videos, audio files. You can create webinars like this one. Here's an idea that Birchbox is using. So I knew about Birchbox for a long time, but I never used it because it was not related to me. And when I was preparing content for the academy, I landed on their YouTube channel, which was full of tips and advice on beauty and makeup and all these things. So while I was doing it, I actually got curious to see what their tips were about. And I was so impressed by their content. I was so impressed by the quality of their tips, which was sitting there 24/7 trying to help people around the world. I was so impressed by them that I immediately went and subscribed to Birchbox for my wife. That's her hand. And we got 2 boxes on Birchbox. So that was super powerful. Imagine that. They created the content. They put it on YouTube to work on its own 24/7. I watch it. I like it so much. I go subscribe my wife on it. And now I've been subscribed for almost a year. How much did they spend? Practically nothing except for the video production. But they didn't push ads on me. They didn't spend money on advertising to reach me. It was working 24/7. And I like it so much that now I'm subscribed to it. And obviously they have a great retention plan in place. But that's how content marketing works. You put your content out there, you help people, they like what they see, they go and subscribe to your business. Here's another great idea that you can use by creating an email list, by offering great content, and by using deep link, in this case, branch. Here's how this works. I'm gonna play this video. So imagine that I get this newsletter, or my wife gets this newsletter, let's say. Now I get this newsletter about different offers, about different different advice and content that this app or this business, Charlotte Russe, sends my wife. Now she reads this email, and then she clicks on choose category. She doesn't have the app yet. She goes to the App Store, installs the app, and then goes straight to the shoes category inside Charlotte Russe. This is a great way to combine email, content, deep link to get somebody to install your app without spending any money. How much did Charlotte Russe spend? Nothing. It was working without any advertising budget. That's exactly what you can use when you start using email marketing, deep link, and content and useful content. The other idea that you could use is SEO. Almost everybody of you guys probably know about SEO. Here's how you can use it for your app installs. So Branch now has all the links of Branch are indexed by Google. Imagine I'm looking for the playlist that's called Summer's End. So I, like many people, I go on Google and start typing Summer's End playlist. So I type Summer's End playlist in the search bar, and I hit enter, and then Google spits out different results. And imagine I land on the 8Tracks radio station here. So I click on this link, which is a deep link of 8Tracks. It takes me to the App Store, to the link to the page of 8Tracks. I install the app, and it takes me straight to the Summer's End playlist inside 8Tracks. So what 8Tracks did, they had an SEO-friendly content that's deep linking for the on the search results of Google. And that's exactly how you can use search engine optimization to get people to install your app. That's again working 24/7 for free. How much did 8Tracks spend? Nothing. Branch is free, SEO is free. All they did is link the two things together to get people to install their app. That's a powerful way to get people to install your app using SEO. App Store optimization. That's another very powerful way to get users to install your app, and a channel that works 24/7 for you. Now, App Store optimization is the process of improving the visibility and the ranking of your mobile app in the app stores. And it's absolutely critical because very few companies are doing it. And by the fact of you doing it, you start standing out in the marketplace, and you start benefiting from the keywords that nobody else is using. And it works 24/7 for you, and it's absolutely free. Now, there are a lot of things you can do in App Store optimization. Here's a mind map I created to organize myself. We don't have time to go through these things, obviously, but it's important that you understand this. In App Store optimization, like in SEO, you have to always be tweaking. You have to tweak the icon to make sure it's working perfectly and it stands out. Sometimes the name, the title of the app, you always have to change it to make sure that you're using the right keywords. The content and the description, that's also very important. The ratings are very important for you. So you have to understand that there are many metrics that you need to be tweaking. Now, in App Store optimization, it's also important to focus on the screenshots. The screenshots is what get people to be interested in discovering more about the app. That's the first thing they see that gets them to be interested. Use them as small billboards for your app. This is where you can inject some social proof and any additional triggers to get people interested and want them to install the app. That's a great example from an app called Fraction Calculator. It's one of the it's actually the #1 calculator app in many stores around the world. All they do is fraction calculation. Look at how they notice how they actually add content on their screenshots, how they add testimonials, and how they clearly communicate the benefits. Notice the logos of the media that talked about them. That creates great social proof and great way to get somebody to trust this app. Also, you notice the #1 rated by teachers. That's also a great way to get somebody to say, wow, this seems to be like a legit, useful app. These are great examples of how you can use screenshots to get somebody to convert and be interested in your app. So be very mindful about the screenshot. They're very important for you. So should you outsource ASO? Today, if you want to outsource ASO, because it's fairly new discipline, it costs anywhere between $500 to $2,000 per month. I highly encourage you to learn it. It's not very tricky. You have to learn it so you can actually get users to come to your app for free. I don't encourage you to spend the money because it's something that you can learn on your own. And there are tools that allow you to optimize your app. There's a company called Mobile Action. It's one of the fast-growing App Store optimization tools out there. There's Sensor Tower as well. App Annie is very popular. Searchman is another tool that you could use to identify the right keywords for your app, the keywords that are relevant for your app, but also you can identify the keywords of your competition and use them in your app. You can understand the highest, the keywords that have the highest traffic but lowest competition and identify those and use them in your app. So use tools that allow you to identify those. Referrals. That's a great way to also get some users in your app. Now, as you know that Uber and all these apps within the sharing economy are using referrals. What you need to be doing initially as a startup, you want to encourage people to invite their friends. I don't know why so many apps out there hide the invitation button inside their app. You want to make sure that it's always on, it's always visible. Do not hide it. Do not get somebody to struggle to find the invitation button. Keep it on. And what you want to be doing is to use some psychological triggers to share, to get somebody to refer their friends and share your app. You don't always have monetary value that you can offer like Uber or Airbnb. Here's an example of the app called The League, which is a dating app. So it's a fairly new dating app. Imagine, despite all the clutter and the thousands of dating apps out there, they still managed to get their brand and their app very popular out of San Francisco. And it's getting a lot of traction now. The way they work, they actually launched the app, but they had it locked. They had people on the wait list. Now they're letting people in the app and getting people off the wait list slowly. And the way they do it, if you wanna jump in the wait list, if you wanna get into the app faster than the others, you can actually invite your friends. So when you invite your friends, you actually can skip the wait list and get into the app faster. That's a great incentive for people to get into the app and get people to share the app. That's how the app eventually exploded. You can see that they have tens of thousands of people on the wait list, and they didn't spend anything on advertising. So the 5 ways to get somebody to refer, to actually succeed in referral marketing, you have to always have the call to action visible. You might want to have an in-app share page to explain more about the benefits of why they might share. Use social invite buttons. Don't have a lot of them. Use few of them. Pre-fill the text. So pre-fill the text with the benefits focused on the receiver end, not on the sender's end, and then have a destination URL. Ideally, you want to have an attribution link there, a deep link that takes somebody to a specific page in the app. Branch is a great way to use in the destination URL, for example. So these are the 5 steps to create a successful referral system. The other way is to focus on customer service. Initially, it's absolutely critical for you to focus on and be obsessed about adding a lot of value to users. Customer service is a great way to get the word out there in a positive way. If you talk to the biggest apps out there, you can realize that the focus for them initially was to be 100% listening to users, understand exactly what their pains are, what their struggles are, how they can add value to their users. So it's very, very important for you to initially focus on customer service. And for that, you can start using tools. You can listen to people on Twitter, for example, read the reviews on the app stores, chat with them. Intercom is a great tool to embed in your app and start talking to people in real time. Citrix also have Citrix Concierge, which is also a free tool to offer customer support for your users. So have these and start listening actively to users, listen to their feedback, understand why they're not using your app, understand if there are any features that you're missing. It's very, very critical to get the word out there in a positive way, and customer service allows you to do this. So these were some ideas on how you can start getting the word out there and start acquiring users for free. The third step is to focus on activation. Activation is absolutely critical, and very, very few companies are focusing on that. Now, activation is simply the process of getting somebody who just installed your app to register and stick around. Sorry, just drinking some water. So you have to focus on the first 30 seconds of somebody inside your app. That's what I call the magic of the first 30 seconds. And the reason why you want to focus on these 30 seconds is because you will probably use 80% of users by day 3. That's what the average app loses. 80% of users by day 3. So imagine this. Imagine you did everything perfectly until this point, but you don't have the right activation process in place. You don't have a process to delight users in the first 30 seconds. That's the main reasons why you might lose 80% of users by day 3. So that's why it's critical you focus on activation. So you have to deliver on the promise of the app. What is the promised outcome of the app in a memorable, in a delightful, and a very simple way. So these users are giving you a chance to use your app. What are you doing to delight them? What are you doing in the first few seconds to actually get them to stick around and have a great first-time user experience? Now, there are a lot of elements in the activation process. You have the promise, the registration flows, the welcome email, the opt-ins for pop-ups, some email marketing, and some people use a day 1 to day 7 onboarding plan. I'll talk about the onboarding plan from a product flow perspective. There are different types of onboarding. You have the progressive onboarding, you have the benefit-oriented onboarding, and you have the feature-oriented onboarding. I'll talk about the progressive onboarding because it's the most important one. And the idea of progressive onboarding is to present information to users as they start using your app. And it's based on the principle of show me, but don't tell me. Show them what your app does. Don't just tell them. Unfortunately, most apps use a slideshow of all the features their app does. So what happens is that the user starts swiping left as fast as possible to get rid of it, and it becomes like a memory task for the user. So they start swiping left as fast as possible just to skip them and get inside the app. Do not do this. Here's an example, a great example from Snapchat. If you have Snapchat, I encourage you to uninstall it and install it again to see how they do the onboarding. So they start with giving you a very specific direction about how to use the app. Tap to take a photo, hold to take a video. And only when you do that, they take you to the next step, and then a third step to add caption, and then to send it. So they're not giving you a slideshow of the features in it. They're actually getting you to use it. There are tons and tons of examples of great onboarding examples, and I document around 400 of them inside the Academy. There's a great resource of how you can find so many of them in the Academy. But what you want to be doing is focusing on the onboarding flows. That's critical for the success of your app. The fourth step, which is one of the most important ones, is the retention. That's critical for the success of your app. Without it, you cannot get people to stick around in your app. So you have to think way beyond the install. It's not important to get somebody to install your app alone. You have to get them to stick around. And for that, as you start growing your user base, it's very important to have some mobile marketing automation in place. You cannot scale, you cannot grow your app without mobile marketing automation. And marketing automation is simply a system, a tool that you could use to automate different messages to different people. You segment your audience, use a mobile marketing automation tool, and you send different audiences different messages at the right time, triggered based on the right events. So mobile marketing automation becomes critical for you. And there are 4 different elements that you need to look for in mobile marketing automation companies. You have to personalize your messages. You have to have the right scheduling and the right timing of the messages. So when do you send them? How often do you send the messages? You have to have the right messages to the right people. So when somebody takes an action, you send them a right message. When somebody takes a different action, you send them a different message. You cannot do this manually. You need a tool that does this for you. And then the most important thing as well is A/B testing. Most likely, you don't know what messages convert. You don't know if your messages are working or not. That's why A/B testing in a marketing automation tool is very important. There are many companies out there. There are 2 that I recommend. There's Localytics and then there's LeanPlum. These are 2 tools in mobile marketing automation that allows you to talk to users and give them a very delightful experience at a scale. Now, if you can type in the chat box, who's using mobile marketing automation today? And maybe ideally, what tool are you using, if any? If you can type in the chat box and let me know if there's anybody using mobile marketing automation. If not, please say no. If yes, please say yes. So once you have mobile marketing automation set up in place, you start thinking about how to retain users. And for that, you have to think about different ways you can talk to them, but also what are you going to tell them? So push notification is one of the most important ways to get somebody to come back to your app. Email marketing is another great way to get somebody inside your app. In-app messages. You can send them offers. You can send them surveys. You can send them thank you messages. You can have certain campaigns, specific campaigns that you can send them. You can sometimes have sweepstakes. You can target happy users or power users or those core users that are retaining in your app. That's a great segmentation. You don't want to lose those users. These are the users that are holding your business. Referral marketing is also a way to talk to people. Ask those happy users to refer their friends. One way to get somebody to remember your app without really sending them any message is to own top of mind awareness. So once you own a certain category, people are going to come back to your app. There's an external trigger that gets them to use your app. So when you're thinking, for example, about taxis now, Uber is not sending you a push notification to remind you. They're not sending you an email, but what they're doing, they own taxi in your mind. They own, whenever you think I need to take a taxi and you don't have a car, many of you, including myself, I think of Uber because they own this top of mind awareness. There are a lot of ways to own top of mind awareness, but once you own it, it's gold. You can get somebody to keep using your app and come back to your app frequently. Marketing automation, we talked about that. You can send them new features or you can send them incentive promos. I want to talk about push notification. Here's a problem that many apps still do, and I don't know why. So many apps do this, let me call it stupid mistake. When somebody just opened their app the very first time, so they installed it, and it happens to me so many times. I just installed an app. The very first thing I get is this pop-up to ask me to opt in for their push notification. Now, I almost always never opt in. The reason is I have no idea what this app is about. Why would I opt in? whether it's for the location or it's for the push notification. However, push notification is very important. And by me opting out, they lose a very, very important channel to talk to me and then get me back to the app. And unfortunately, that's what so many people are doing, so many apps are doing. And that's why only 40% of users actually opt in. The opt-in rate is the highest among ride-sharing apps. And rightfully so, because if you have a taxi, if you ordered a taxi, you want to not know if the taxi arrived. And it's the lowest among social apps or news and media apps, because these apps are spamming users. And that's why users are now opting out. Although it's a very important channel, but people are opting out. So the question becomes, how do you get users to opt in for push notification and come back to your app? It's actually very simple. It's much simpler than you think. Can you guess? Can you guess how to do it? Can you type in the chat box, how can you do this without actually spending money? Here's how to do it. You actually promote benefits first. It's as simple as this. You explain what is the benefit of opting in. Here's an example of a company called Retail Me Not that sends usually coupons of favorite stores. So in the onboarding experience, after I choose the stores that I like, what are my favorite stores, I get this pop-up that asks me, do you want us to notify you when your favorite stores have new coupons? There's a big call to action that says yes. And then at the bottom says no thanks. Obviously, I'm going to say yes. These are my favorite stores. I want you to notify me. And then I say yes. And then with a psychological trigger of commitment and persuasion, because I said yes, this alone increases the opt-in rate by around 76%. After I click yes, I get this native pop-up asking me to opt in. Obviously, I'm going to say yes. I already said yes. I'm going to allow this app to send me a notification. And by you explaining the benefits of why people should opt in, whether it's for location or any push notification, you drastically and radically increase your retention rates. And by increasing your retention rates, you get somebody to stick in the app and eventually start growing your app. Because it's not important only to focus on new users or acquisition. It's very important to get them to stick around and then remain in your app. That's how you can radically increase your retention through push notification. So these are the 4 different stages of the growth funnel. I have this question for you. If you can answer the poll, do you have the growth funnel already in your business? If you can type in yes or no and the poll on the right-hand side, if you're on desktop, I think it's on the bottom of the screen if you're on a smartphone. Do you have this growth funnel in place in your business? If you do not have this growth funnel, it's going to be almost impossible for you to grow. It's going to be impossible for you to succeed and grow your app, because it's not important for you to just build the app. It's even more important to know how to grow it and successfully attract users and retain them, even if you don't have any marketing budgets. So the results of the poll are, I see around 86% say no, I don't have a growth funnel in place, and then only 14% say yes. And that's alarming. I don't know about you guys, but I'm not sure how you think you're going to eventually succeed in your business without having a growth funnel. How are you going to attract investors? What is this go-to-market strategy that you're going to have in place that's going to attract users, attract investors, and allow you to succeed in your business? So I highly encourage you to focus on these four stages of the growth funnel. Now, I'm not sure why I showed up today. It could be because you're not getting enough users. It could be because you're new to mobile marketing and not sure where to start. Or it could be maybe that you're just looking for the best ways to grow your app. But you listen to this entire presentation, you've seen the power of what I've shown you, and you know this stuff works. This is what the biggest app and the leading apps in Silicon Valley are using. It's exactly what they're using. And so you're maybe wondering, what is the fastest way to actually do all this? And that's why I put up this program called the Mobile Growth Academy, which digs in detail in everything we talked. I just scratching the surface of what you should be doing. And it's laid out in many different modules. The essentials of what fundamentals you need to master, to the positioning and exactly what you need to be, how you should be positioning your app, with tons of words you should use in your marketing, things I'm using and things that other apps are using, many different acquisition ideas on how you can acquire users for free, different activation processes, retention plan and retention ideas, and dig deep in all of these things. So it's a series of short videos that you can consume at your own pace. They're all between 3 minutes to 5 minutes. There are tons of videos out there that I'm documenting inside the Academy. I give you resources, I give you tools, I give you the right companies, I give you offers from different companies in the mobile marketing space. So that's an example of an acquisition module, actually a section of it, of what you should be doing. What is attribution? What is deep links? What are the different ways you can attract users with referral marketing, with app store optimization? In addition to all of this, you have direct access to me to ask me any question through a private group, to ask me any question 24/7. So that's a great way to work with me and get my advice and get my support without having to pay anything extra. Now, in addition to all this, because you might be stuck and need some guidance, I have these calls, these free live coaching calls every 2 weeks. It was once a month, but I'm now doing it every 2 weeks, where you get asked question about your business, and we'll jump on a live call and then address all these questions and answer all these questions in live call. And you'll have access to the replays if you cannot make it to these calls. That's a great way to work with me in addition to the private group, and get me to dig deep in your business without having to pay anything extra. And just so you know, the company is paying me $15,000 and above every month to have access to this kind of content. In addition to all this, I partner with leading apps in Silicon Valley, where I document exactly how their app works. They get exclusive content from them, and I get amazing deals that they can offer the members of the Academy. In fact, I have around $10,000 worth of deals from many, many different companies. And we have a huge pipeline of additional companies we're working with. These are some of them. Now, just to recap, you have access to step-by-step videos, resources, tools of how companies in Silicon Valley are succeeding in marketing and growing their apps, and how you can do it too. It's all practical stuff. You have free monthly updates of every month. We have new videos that we're adding, new content we're adding to the Academy. You get also free updates. You have live coaching calls with me every 2 weeks. You have daily support through private group, and you have access to offers and deals from leading companies in Silicon Valley. Now, I have this question for you. What is it worth for you to succeed and grow your business and achieve your dreams? What is this worth for you? What is worth the success of your app? What is it worth for you to have access to this knowledge? Companies are paying me $15,000 a month for this. Now, I'm making all of this content accessible for you for only $137 a month. And the idea here is you get all of the content, work with me, you can cancel anytime. Now, I have even more bonuses for you. For those in the call and for the coming 24 hours, you can use this discount code to get 25% off the price point. So for today and for tomorrow, for the 24 hours, by using this discount code on the checkout, you get 25% off. To join and to benefit from it, just go to the mga.co. Go to the actually, let me have this offer right now. Here's how you can get it. Just click on this button on the right-hand side, and then benefit from this offer. And for those from Rocket Space listening, there's a special discount in the members area in your Rocket Space membership area. So you can go in and find the discount there. So this is what I had for you guys today. If you're interested, join. If you're not interested, I hope that you benefited from this presentation and learn exactly what it takes to market your app and how to do it, how to grow it successfully. And for now, I'm gonna jump on the live Q&A with you, and Jeff is gonna join me as well in the Q&A. I see we have a bunch of questions now, so let's jump right into it.
Naji, great job as always. Thank you for the incredible information. I know that anyone out there that's building a mobile app, I'm sure they benefited tremendously by being part of the webinar today. One thing that struck me before we get into the Q&A from the audience is you talked about A/B testing. And I frequently see startups that don't do A/B testing. And I, like you, feel that A/B testing is an incredibly important element of getting out there and figuring out. Someone had asked earlier on about social proof. How do we get social proof for our app? So could you delve into A/B testing just a little bit more, the importance of it, and not necessarily the tools that are available, but what does it mean for these guys and girls?
Yeah, for sure. When you're just starting up, and if you're not really good in copywriting, even if you're good in copywriting, actually, there's no way you know whether your messages resonate well, whether your messages work and actually get some click-throughs and convert users. Because ultimately, that's what you want. You want people to click on it and eventually convert to move down the funnel. And when you're writing up your messages, you're actually using your own assumptions. You do the homework, you identify the benefits, you profile them really well, and you have a library of messages. But you don't really know which one resonate the most with users. And most important, you don't know which messages resonate with different segments of your user base. That's why you need A/B testing. You need to split test different messages to different audiences and see which ones resonate the most with users, which one actually convert users, which ones are getting the highest click-through rate. And when you're starting up, it's very important to have the right messages to explain accurately and clearly what your app is about, what's different about it. That's a great time to start focusing on split testing and identifying the right messages. This is why A/B testing is important. The other important thing about starting up and owning some credibility is because people don't trust you. You need to get somebody to use your app, but how can you get them to trust you? Social proof is an important one. If you notice the screenshots, #1 rated app for teachers. How can you get that, for example? Can you get a #1 in anything around your niche? Here's a great way you can do it without having to have millions of downloads. It's actually a hack. What you do is you get some users in your app. Could be 100, could be 50, doesn't matter. And then you send them a small survey. In the survey, you ask them, what is your favorite app for whatever, for calculation, for fraction calculation. And you have 3 different items or 3 different options. Your option and somebody else's option. Now you know they're gonna choose your option because they're using you and they're actually happy. So you send them the survey and then the results are gonna be skewed to your app. So what you do is you take this result and you put #1 rated app among the audience that you use to get this result. And you put an asterisk and you put a footnote. In the footnote, you put as tested by 50 users or 100 users or 100 teachers. Here's the thing, nobody reads these footnotes. Footnotes are on a small footprint. Almost nobody reads them. Even if they read them, you're not actually lying. What they see is the #1 rated. That's one way to get some social proof. Another way to get some social proof is through association. You work with some company and then you get their logo as part of your pitch as partner. One of our leading partners is this company. If you can't get a partner, you put media coverage as covered by all these companies. Here's a thing that a small hack I saw a company do. You put all these logos of these companies, and I'm not saying you should do this, but it's at least some food for thought for you. You put all these brands of publication and websites, and this website, what they did, they said, as not yet published by, and they had these logos. When I saw it, I was impressed by all these logos. I said, wow, seriously, they got covered by TechCrunch, Mashable, and all these companies. But then when I really read it again, because it was a fairly new app that I knew the founders of, it was very surprising for me to see their coverage. and I read them as not yet published. I smiled, but that was it. It's not something that created negative emotions towards this company, but a lot of users won't read it properly. They will just see that all these logos, and that's another way to create social proof, for example.
Okay, thank you, Naji. One more question before we get to, for me, before we get to questions from the audience. How does a startup, and we all know that startups in the early days don't have any, liquid capital to go out and hire people. How does a startup, if they are looking at hiring a marketing and branding guy, user engagement guy for the app, how do they qualify what is a good person and not a good person? I mean, you can read the LinkedIn profile, you could maybe look at what they've had success with in the past, of course.
Yeah, that's a great question.
But that success is, I mean, you're not going to find too many out there with huge successes that will probably come to your little startup to start. So how do you qualify that person?
So as a startup founder, it's very important for you to focus on having the right growth system and growth funnels in place. Now, if you don't want to learn how to do it and implement it yourself, it's very important for you to have the right team in place to do this for you. Now, how do you know if you have the right person or not, or if you have the right team or not? It's all about asking the right questions. That's why it's very important for you to know the ins and outs of growth marketing, of say, what is app store optimization? How does it work? What are the tools? What worked and what doesn't work? What's relevant? How important is the description? What are deep links? How can we use deep links? Even if you're not going to implement it yourself, it's very important for you to learn about these things first, to understand exactly what they are. And then in the interview process, when you're interviewing this person, you ask these questions, because it's going to be very, very expensive for you not to have the right team in place when you are marketing your app. If you have the wrong hire, it's going to be very costly for your business. Just because of, sorry.
Do you recommend that out of the gate a startup has, you go out and find a guy like that, or do you wait, proof of concept?
I highly recommend, and that's what I taught all companies: do not hire a marketing team initially. Do not hire a sales force. Do not go after big launches before you have the right marketing system in place. And to do this, you can do it yourself. It's not hard. It's not complicated. Do not have the entire system, all of these channels in place, but have at least the structure of it, so that when you bring in a marketing person, all they do is optimize and do more of it and scale it. But what I recommend all companies to do is to have this skill in-house as early on as possible, and ideally by the founders. It's a very, very important skill for you to have in order to succeed and grow your business.
Okay, good. Something else, one last thing, and by the way, for those, the attendees, if you have questions, use that question and answer box and put your questions directly in there, please. Naji, one more thing that in the past, many years, but let's say the past 100 pitch decks that I've looked at, which, only takes me back a couple months, but I tend to see the same thing over and over again, which is use of proceeds. They want to raise $500,000 and they want to spend, $250,000 on user acquisition. When you see something like that, what goes through your mind, and what would you suggest to the founders out there?
Can you say it again, please, quickly, because I lost it? Just
yeah, very quick. Yeah, for sure. In many pitch decks, I see user acquisition in the use of proceeds. Say somebody's looking to raise $500,000 and they want to spend 250 grand of that, 50% of it, on user acquisition. That's something that always blows my mind when I see that. How do you feel about that? And what would you what would you suggest to the founder?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I see it also so frequently among companies and their go-to-market strategy or slides. They talk about that, and here's what I tell everybody: when you're starting up, put the marketing budget on the side and try to figure out a way to attract users for free. That's what I always talk about, and that's what the whole presentation was about. How can you attract users for free? The reason why you don't want to do paid acquisition is because initially you have very limited budgets, and most likely you don't have the right marketing system, the growth funnel in place. So what you're doing, you're spending advertising budget, you're spending on average $4 to $6 to acquire a single user without having the right marketing system in place to retain them. But not only that, if your economics don't work, if you're spending $6 from every single user, but you're making from that single user $1, you're actually losing money from every single user you're bringing on board. So unless you have a lot of money, unless you have great traction, a system that keeps these users on board, there's no way you're going to be able to succeed. So what I recommend is create your marketing system, this growth funnel, on a small scale. Figure out the channels that get you users for free, whether it's ASO, App Store optimization, or referral marketing, or content marketing. You have many different channels that get you users for free. Make sure to implement the system to keep them in your business, and only then start spending money. I'm not saying do not spend money. You want to spend the money when you have the right system in place, because ultimately what an investor wants to see is growth. You have the right growth and traction. You spend money, you're acquiring users, you're retaining most of them, and then you start getting growth that you can show the investors. They're seeing a great hockey stick growth. You ask for money, they give you money, and you start putting more money. But you can do this only when you have the right marketing and growth funnel system in place. And for that, you don't need money to start. You can do it without spending any single dollar.
Yeah. Great answer, Naji. I couldn't agree more. I've seen people blow tremendous amounts of money on user acquisition. You know, we still see it today. We see it with a bunch of the unicorns that are out there that think it's, you know, great math to spend $5 to get a customer to spend $4. I mean, yeah. It makes no sense whatsoever. And of course, those companies will have a difficult time going forward. We have one question here that is a great question coming in from, where did it go? From EL, who's asking, can you explain the WhatsApp hack better?
So the WhatsApp hack is actually, there's a deep link for WhatsApp that allows you to open WhatsApp from any app actually. And it's WhatsApp : text equal. Just Google it, you can find it. And the way you do it, you can put it inside a call to action or inside an icon inside your app where it says invite WhatsApp friends. This call to action has the deep link of WhatsApp in it, where you can actually pre-fill it with a text. And then when people click on it, it opens WhatsApp. You select the person that you want to send this message to or you want to invite. You select this person, and it comes pre-filled with the text. And then you hit send. This person on WhatsApp received the message from you. You don't spend any single dollar. We use it very successfully. There's so many apps using it successfully. And actually, I document all this in the Academy, and I give many different examples and the actual code on how to do it and how other apps are doing it. That's basically how it works. Okay. There's a question on whether these slides are going to be available for download. I'm not going to offer them for download, but it looks like some people could not make it. So I'm going to have a replay of this webinar, but only for 24 hours. So I'm going to have a replay for the webinar for 24 hours for those who could not make it.
Okay. Naji, we have a question from Ketki, who's asking, you know, at what cycle of the product development should you start marketing? And before you answer, you know, I put in my 2 cents there, that if you've got a product or a startup that you're proud, you know, really, really proud of, and that you think is you're going to give it 150% effort to make this a massive winning hit, your marketing never stops. I mean, from the time you wake up in the morning to the time you go to bed, you will socialize your app, your idea, and tell everybody in the world about it. And that is how you get feedback. And it goes to, you know, Steve Blank's at Stanford, his comment about getting outside the building. sitting inside and coding and doing all that stuff all day long. Sure, you need to do that, but you need to get out there and tell people about your story to get feedback.
Yeah.
You've got to ask people, would they use it? What suggestions they might have to make the app better. So to answer your question, or my 2 cents at least in answering that, is you never, ever, ever stop marketing. And you start the very day that you have your idea. Be proud of it. Start blogging about it.
Exactly. So initially, the minute you start getting serious about your idea, that's the time to start marketing. And there's different types of marketing at different stages of the company. Initially, when you're just starting off, it's very important for you to start building your list of potential users, email list of your users. And the way you can do this is by identifying them, understand exactly who they are, what do they want. Again, goes back to the positioning, and talking to them at least face to face, at least manually. Talk to them, understand who they are, what do they want, and start giving them benefits. Again, think about your app as a solution to a problem they have. It's actually one of many solutions. What other ways you can help this person? What tips can you give them? What advice can you give them? This is where content marketing becomes absolutely important, especially for B2B apps, especially in the apps that are within the consumer space as well, where you can help them and give them tips. Some of the tips you can give them, for example, the top 5 tools that they could use, the questions they should be asking. So content marketing becomes very important for you to start building the list. Once you have a list, within these 2 to 6 months that you're spending to build a product, focus on building the list. Within few months, you're going to have a list of few hundred people, if not thousands of people. Once you have these people and then you're ready to launch, it's a perfect time to use them for beta testing or to get your early users. In addition to that, when you start talking to people, you start understanding exactly how to fine-tune the product, what features to focus on to effectively build the product that people want. So marketing in the early stages is all about building your list of users, understanding what they want, and listening very actively to them. And I document all of this in the Academy. That's why when you join the Academy, you start talking to me directly, when you start seeking my help, when you start learning all of these things, you can save yourself thousands of dollars, because so many mistakes out there are just so easy to solve if you know what to avoid and what to focus on. So you have direct access to me. And for those in the webinar and for the next 24 hours, we're offering 25% off on the price point, which is a very attractive price point if you think about the value you're getting and all the things you're going to be able to avoid, all the mistakes you're going to be able to avoid, and all the benefits you're going to get on what to focus on and how to do it, and all the questions you're going to ask us. That's why I highly encourage people to join it. And if it's not to do it themselves, at least to learn what questions to ask and how to interview the right people and how to hire the right people.
Good. Naji, we've got a question here from Sebastian, who's asking, could you give me an example of a startup that uses perfectly what it is that you have been preaching today? So why don't you give us an example or two? I'm sure you can.
It's hard to see any company that's succeeding that's not using the system. I don't understand how a company can grow without having the right messages, without having the right acquisition channels, without having the right activation process, without having the right simplistic flows for the product for the first users, without welcoming new users, and without having the retention plan in place. So basically, any product out there you see, whether it's Uber or Flipboard or even the web apps out there, they cannot succeed if they don't have the right system in place. If they don't, that's exactly the system they're using. Look at your email, your inbox. How many emails do you get from Amazon, for example? How many emails do you get from Uber about different campaigns? Why do they send them? It's to remind you about your app. It's to remind you about that they exist. It's to tell you about new campaigns. But why? It's to retain you. Why? Because there's lift out there. There's so many companies competing on that. Why is their product so simple to use? Because they're focusing on the single features that you want. Delete it and install it and see how they do the onboarding flows. Be mindful of all the ads they use, all the messages they use. Notice how they focus on the benefits, on very clear value proposition. on what's different about it and what's useful for the end user, whether it's the driver or the actual user. So basically, every single app out there, every single product that's successful, they're using this exact system. And this is the alarming part, is that all the failing startups, they're not using the system. That's why it's so mind-boggling for me. They still think that they can succeed and the product is going to market itself. It won't, unless you have the right systems in place. I'm not asking you to join the academy to grow your business, succeed your, but there are so many ways you can do it, even if you don't join the academy. But I'm telling you, you need to have these 4 stages to succeed and market your app properly.
Good. Why don't we do one more question, Naji, and then we'll wrap it up. Do you see any questions there, Naji, that you want to tackle? There are a bunch of them. Hang on. Okay, so here's a question. Actually, an interesting question. I'm launching a free MVP with a plan for monetization in phase 2. Should we get funded? What is an attractive number of downloads? Where'd that go? In the first 5 days, first month, 3 months, first year. Did you catch that?
Yeah, I haven't seen it, but I understood the question.
I mean, it's a question about if he's the individual has a startup.
Okay,
he's trying to pitch his deal.
Yeah,
you know, what kind of numbers in terms of user downloads make sense?
So
that's
answer
very
this
difficult.
question. There are many ways to answer this question. One of them is about understanding what is the space of this company. If it's in the consumer messaging app, a good investor won't be interested in anything below tens of thousands, and then the serious ones, the real big ones, millions. However, when you're just starting up, what's the most important metric for you to showcase is traction. If you have few thousands of people, you need to show traction week over week. Week over week, that's what investors want to see. They want to see growth. Growth is new users and existing users. Are you retaining existing users? Are you able to continuously attract new users? So growth rate, which are new users over existing users, is what people need to see. Investors need to see. The early investors need to see a few thousands. As you start progressing with time, they expect you to have tens of thousands. So that's why time is also not with you when it comes to the age of your startup. If you've been in business for 6 months and you have only a few thousand startup users, that's not a great business. If you've been in business for 3 weeks and you have a few thousand and it's growing, that's a very hot business. That's why you need to have the right marketing system in place. And it's hard to identify exact number of users within 3 months or 4 months because it's all depending on the growth rate.
Yeah. Good. Thanks, Naji. Do you see another question you want to tackle before we close it up, or no?
So when you're starting up and you don't have marketing budget and you don't know what to focus on, it's important to identify different marketing channels. Obviously, once you have the right marketing messages, identify different marketing channels, distribution channels. Identify one of them. Brainstorm several distribution channels and how you're going to tackle them, and identify the top 3 you want to focus on. When you choose these top 3, test them. Test if they're actually getting the results you're expecting. So here's a channel. It could be referral marketing. We're expecting it's going to convert this much. Here's how we're going to activate it. Here's how we're going to encourage people to refer their friends. Let's test it. Let's test it on a small scale. Once you see that one specific channel or 2 specific channels at most are working, you start pumping in more energy and more focus on them. But initially, identify all the different channels. And I talk about a bunch of them in the academy and how to do it, whether it's content marketing or app store optimization or referral marketing or different viral loops or partnerships. Identify these different channels, focus on the top 2 and 3 that you want to test, identify the goals that you might want to expect from them, and test them on a small scale. See which ones is working, and then start focusing on them. Do not start with Facebook advertising or Google advertising. That's a recipe for failure.
Good. Naji, I think we'll wrap it up. We'll wrap it up here now. It's been an incredible session. I want to thank you so much for your brilliant insights, your experience in the success that you've had. You've definitely empowered a lot of entrepreneurs all around the world today. I want to thank all of our members from all the meetup groups, the 147 cities in which we're now currently live. We had an incredible turnout today. We will be doing many, many more of these and more with Naji as well. I encourage everybody to be a part of the Mobile Growth Academy. It is something that is definitely invaluable for you to get in there and learn what it takes to truly get your people signed up, to get them engaged and have them tell others about the app. I mean, being viral is what is going to make your app a huge success. So
Yeah.
you need to have a great product that others want to talk about. And once others talk about it, you're going to get user engagement like you've never seen.
Exactly.
So Naji, if you wanted to do a 1-minute wrap up, and
Yep.
then we can say sayonara to everybody, but you go ahead.
Sure. As a conclusion, guys, I highly encourage you to put more focus on the marketing when you're just starting up. Focus on the MVP features, but put a lot more focus on the marketing, because marketing is gonna make or break your business. The product is gonna obviously be there, whether you build 10 features or 1 feature, but start putting more focus on marketing and the right marketing. Don't follow what everybody else is doing, because 9 out of them are failing. Don't observe what they're doing and just apply it in your business. Focus on these 4 stages that I documented. And if you want to do it faster, if you want my advice, that's why I created Academy. The 25% off is for every single recurring month. Do it, join it if you want, but most importantly, learn how to do it the right way. Otherwise, all of the hard work, all the sleepless nights, all the sacrifices you're doing, all the money you're putting, all the investment is going to go to waste. And I've been there. I know what it's like. I see so many startups around the world failing and then just miserable just because of product marketing, the wrong marketing systems. So with that note, I want to leave you with the idea that this marketing skill that you're gonna learn, that you can implement, you can transfer it to any future endeavor, any new startup. Even if you want to join a company, this becomes a transferable knowledge and skills that's gonna be with you forever. So with that said, thank you very much for attending today's call. I highly enjoyed it, and I hope that you learn new things. And if you're interested, join the Academy. The 25% off is for today and tomorrow for the next 24/7. I'm going to have a replay as soon as this is over. I'm going to post the replay and then send it to everybody. And then if you're interested to work with me, I'd be more than happy to help you. Thank you very much, guys.
Good stuff, Naji. Thank you so much, and thank you everybody that attended today. I wish you all the best for a great upcoming weekend, and we do have some very cool webinars coming up. You'll be alerted to them via the meetup groups. So have a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you may be in this world, and I wish you all the best. Thank you for taking the time to listen today. Bye-bye.